Like the seeking eye searched for all to unify with the keeper of time, the moon longs for light from the sun, and the sun searches for a body that can reflect his light, the moon. On their quest, they pass through mercurial waters of the heart, and when they unite as one, a fusion of golden thread, silver thread, meet in a quickening of the electric heart, allowing it to return to its beat of origin that expresses in form. An electrum is formed, the current that folds through time to return to the all. This is about how the sun, moon, and Mercury are not just celestial bodies or elements, but living currents within us, leading to the seal of wholeness and keys to understanding the great mysteries of Thoth. This is energetic as well as conceptual transmission, linking alchemy, myth, and the cosmos. So let's all take a deep breath as we begin and settle into the body. In the great mysteries of alchemy, there are several concepts that are looped back to time and time again. The sun, the moon, and the earth. Alchemy has long held keys to the solar system, the cosmos, the elements, connecting them all together. But what if the keys have never been to the elements to transform metals from one form to another, but welding them together into one lived form? To me, an alchemist is a philosopher who knows how to express in matter, create in the reality, and who has combined the threads of knowledge and thought into being, collapsing the waves into embodiment. In alchemy, there are prime materials that we return to over and over again, the master keys to understanding the all. Electrum was a key for me to retrieving these understandings. Electrum is known as a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver, the union of the moon and the sun, sulfur and salt, anchor and spiral, body and mind, the self and the divine. Alchemists prized gold and silver. The philosopher's stone's goal was to transform base metals into gold or silver. So to unify the two, well, that's even more mystical. Yet their union was not the end of the journey. If we look to prime materials in alchemy, we will find many clues to our transformation and the internal process of return to the all, to God and Source. These prime materials are salt, sulfur, Mercury, and Azoth. The three prime materials are referenced as salt, sulfur, and Mercury, and many interpret Azoth as either myth, mystery, or the same as Mercury. While I agree there's only a triad of prime materials, I will say Azoth is not the same as Mercury, nor is it myth that we cannot comprehend, but the final return. So let's break down some of the symbols of the three prime materials, looking at language. Salt is often associated with form in alchemy, with the earth. And I'm also going to associate it with the moon. I may even be so bold as to infer that the earth and moon are a unified field. I don't know why the moon is outside the earth at this moment, but bear with me, and it will make sense in a moment. So salt in French is sel. The moon goddess in ancient Greek myth is Selene. Selene, some say. If we break down Selene with triadic model, Pythagoras says anything worthy is a triad, into Se, Le, and Ne. In Greek, you can say the first triad, Se, is oneself. In Greek, Se being you, Latin se is oneself. In Proto-Indo-European language, it is separate or to oneself. And in Greek, le is directly tied to the word for moon, which is Liana, but has phonetic kinship in Hebrew to the word for heart, and in Sanskrit to absorb. The ne could be inferred to as new or young in Greek, connected to Egypt or Egyptian phonetics for water, and Hebrew for lamp or flame. So to me, the moon and earth combine to represent a mirror dynamic. The moon is the point in the cosmos, a celestial body, from which the earth can reference herself, from which we reference the earth. So to me, the moon and the earth combine to represent a mirror dynamic of reflection and understanding of self, our own heart and emotional core of receptivity, the body, the self, the inner world. And there has always been a knowing in me that in symbology, when talking about the union of sun and moon, we are also talking about the union of sun and earth, the earth that receives the light from the sun. That is why my union of divine mind and body meditation that I have on my channel uses the earth and sun to create electrum energy, not the moon. Now, sulfur. Because of its fiery nature, sulfur is associated in alchemy with the sun, and the sun is associated with gold. Sulfur in Greek is theion, which also has some interesting symbols to it, but I want to actually look at it in a similar way to salt. If we look at French and the Latin component, we can make comparisons to the words for sun and fire, sol, feu, and even words like furnace. And while sulfur is not clearly connected to the name of sun and Greek god Helios, it is, according to the etymology through Proto-Indo-European origins, I still want to look at Helios because it paints the story. And also because Helios is the meaning of my name in Greek, and he's a guide of mine and covered me in electrum during meditation to activate those codes, so he probably appreciates the mention. So if we break down Helios into its triad of Helios, he can connect to the Greek for the, and Hebrew for breath of divine revelation, and to the Egyptian god of infinity. Li to Proto-Indo-European origins for light, and similarly to light, brilliance in Latin and Sanskrit. In Chinese, Li to order or principle. Os in Greek is the masculine. It is also the seed sound, like And in Latin, a mouth opening. So I would interpret, like many do, that the sun and sulfur is the mouth of the logos, the vocalization, the logos radiance giving form and force in the world, and the external initiation. Now, Mercury, being known as the fastest planet, can be seen, mer, which means sea in French, if we're going back to the French, but it also means divided material, separate pieces. Cur, the pass-through or the current. And why, the choice point, the shape of unification. Mercury is the bridge. It is the current. It is the womb of return that allows you to express earthly divine embodiment. The symbol for Mercury has been interpreted as the cosmic womb, unification of the sun, the circle, the crescent moon, and the cardinal directions in the cross. And Mercury, the element, is also known as quicksilver, a rare material found in the earth crust in liquid form, symbolizing the quickening rivers of time, where the sun and the moon loop through and return to wholeness. Mercurial waters in alchemy is also known for giving form, as the bridging water of life. So Mercury is the current and charge that unifies the two, the bridge of embodiment. So these elements are often mentioned in alchemy, but it is noted in the secret teachings of all ages, it is not their earthly form, not the element we would find on earth, but their higher octave form, where each base comprises components of the other, the three that are one. Once the sun and moon, the salt and the sulfur, catch each other in the sky and pass through the mercurial waters of the heart, unifying time, relation, mind and body, spirit and soul, into wholeness, forming electrum, which also means electron, they can continue through the wheel back to source to complete the circuit and return to Azoth. I first encountered the word Azoth reading Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages again. I highly recommend it. I listened to it on audiobook, and when I first pressed play, I almost fell over from the wave of energy that I felt. My guide said he was early in his understanding, the way he wove the ancient understandings across different threads. And so this is where things get more intuitive for me. So the first time I heard reference to Azoth, I knew it was Thoth. I said, "Hello, Thoth. Weird to see you here," referred to as Azoth. Thoth, as an energy, a guide, has always been near, but always a little elusive for me to understand. But at the time when I always held a deep knowing of, a deep recognition of that not all is as it seems with Thoth, the ibis deity from Egyptian mythology of wisdom and order. I knew many modern references, channelings, and information about Thoth were not the Thoth I knew in my heart, or at least not all of him. It was like I was on a quest to demystify Thoth, searching for him in records by different names, in my memories of Egypt, looking for beings who carried his memory across time in their human incarnations, records I never fully found, except the knowing he was not, or not the full of him, carried across in human incarnations like others mastered the understandings of Isis and Bastet and carried their honorifics as names. At least, if so, it was not for me to know or have a relationship with. My guides were always clear and also mysterious about Thoth, being clear he was a teacher across dimension, not a physical being, never incarnated in full, never incarnated in enough energy to say, that's Thoth, galactic or otherwise, but a presence, an energy that teaches and guides. Thoth, through time, has been linked to Hermes and Mercury, many saying they are the same, a muddling of roles in anthropology probably. I have also always known that Thoth is not the same as Mercury and Hermes. I know Hermes, and he is indeed mercurial, but usually the names are not the same energy. And I knew this was even more so for Thoth. Mercury and Hermes can be seen as the quick messengers collecting the threads to return them to wholeness, the ones bridging the separate parts, the current. But this is not Thoth. I do know Thoth's energy as the ibis guide, and I know him beyond time and space as well, a deep knowing of the fullness of Thoth. I have also channeled the ibis energy of the unified architect and alchemist. I have channeled during hypnosis the master magician, telling us how to restore time in the heart of the earth, the true matrix. Once I got used to channeling the Divine Mothers, the body of the all in which the Spirit of God flows through everything, there are only a few energies that strain my body to channel. And that is the counterpart of the Divine Mothers, the Cosmic Father, the Father of all, etc. However, I had trouble channeling Thoth, a strong current of energy that the right side of my body could not hold without expressing. The joke came through that it was like trying to put a dodecahedron inside a flower of life. And I want you to keep that in mind as we continue breaking down Azoth, because it all leads back to Thoth. Azoth, sometimes a mystery, sometimes related to Mercury, or sometimes seen as the prime material. When I break down Azoth for esoteric understanding, this is what I find. The AZ, representing A to Z, the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega, as AZ can also be a symbol of strength, of mighty, if you compare it to Semitic languages and Hebrew. Oth symbolizes the seal, the completion, and measure of. So, Azoth, the origin, the completion, and the internal seal. An electrum is the unifying embodiment that allows you to move back to Azoth. Now, if we break down Thoth in the same way, I want you to notice the TH at the beginning and the end, creating a closed loop, the complete circle. So if we break down the Tho, THO, can be linked in Greek to see, to the ibis, to higher sight, and Sanskrit to higher wisdom. The ibis here is a symbol of sacred observation and measurement. TH itself is the sound of vibration and breath, the origin of creation. And the final letter, the seal again, and wheel as the theta symbol, the sphere that contains all. It's very similar to the meaning of Azoth. But what is the union of the beginning and the end in an eternal seal? Any guesses? So Thoth is not the architect trying to reconstruct the unified whole from its separate parts. He is not the alchemist trying to collapse them into form, but he is the union of the two, the architect and the alchemist. Thoth is the observer that is already whole, and experiencing our path to electrum within, allowing light of spirit and our flame of self to unify, and move through the rivers of time and womb of return to him. Thoth in his fullness is all, is the one, is source, is God. And that is how I have always known him to be, everything and nothing. The sphere that contains the three prime materials of salt, self, earth, sulfur, spirit, sun, Mercury, the current of embodiment. The master keys of alchemy of salt, sulfur, and Mercury, and Azoth, of sun and moon, of gold and silver, have always been to lead us into wholeness in the body, to return the threads to our own earthly divinity, to close the loop, and to return to the one. And so the seeking eye rests, no longer searching. The moon no longer longs, for she is clothed in the sun's light. The sun no longer seeks when he is reflected in her heart. An electrum gleams, not just as two threads woven together, but as one eternal current, folded back into the all.